one of Stewart Rhodes' defenses will be that the Oathkeepers and Stewart Rhodes was waiting for Donald Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act and call up a militia, and that they had not done anything wrong by being there because they hadn't even gone into the Capitol and they were waiting for Donald's orders. And when Donald did not invoke the Insurrection Act, they left and they went to go eat. I believe they went to Olive Garden. Bad name for Olive Garden. Olive Garden has great breadsticks. Now, there are many places that argument would fail. The Second Amendment right to bear arms is for the security of the state. It is for our defense, and it is not for any old militia. It's for a well-regulated militia. What does regulated mean? Regulated means it is under the administration of the government in some way, shape, or form. And in our context today, a well-regulated militia is the National Guard. And if there was an insurrection that the President of the United States had to put down, they would call up the well-regulated militia of the National Guard. They wouldn't call up any militia that just decides they are now a well-regulated militia on their own assessment. So Donald Trump, even if he on January 6th had invoked the Insurrection Act, he would have had to call in the National Guard. He couldn't have legally invoked the Insurrection Act or the series of acts, measures that needed to be taken to mobilize a well-regulated militia. He wouldn't have done that by mobilizing the Oathkeepers and the Proud Boys and the Three Percenters. That still would have been an insurrection against the government of the United States, because the President of the United States is not the only aspect of the government of the United States. In fact, Congress is the Article 1 branch of government. So, and that is on January 6th, the sitting Article 2 executive attacked the Article 1 branch of government. And so even if he would have invoked the Insurrection Act, and even if he would have then called up a well-regulated militia, that well-regulated militia would not have been the Oathkeepers. It would have been the National Guard, which is what Vice President Pence had to do because Donald was sitting there for 187 minutes and did nothing, which brings into question Mike Pence and how he needs to testify and why he hasn't done so yet. It's just the privilege is astounding. So that's the reason why the Stewart Rhodes Insurrection Act argument doesn't work. Here's another reason why it doesn't work. Because the Stewart Rhodes has been indicted for many charges. The chief of those charges is seditious conspiracy. The statute, the law, the letter of the law of seditious conspiracy does not require that Stewart Rhodes and the Oathkeepers had to go inside the Capitol building in order for their seditious conspiracy crime to have been completed. The seditious conspiracy charge is a conspiracy charge. It goes to the specific intention of delaying, obstructing, insurrecting. It is not actually the act of that obstruction. It is not the act of that delay. It is not the act of the insurrection. It is the conspiracy of that act and the meeting of the minds of one or more persons in the commission of a conspiratorial act and commission of overt acts in furtherance of that conspiracy, such as communicating, such as planning, such as organizing between the various groups like the Oathkeepers and the Proud Boys and Three Percenters and the other extremist groups who really had nothing else in common other than this this insurrection, right? And it finally it puts the whole insurrection idea on its head in the sense that Donald Trump would have invoked the Insurrection Act against Congress and the will of the American people, because that's the only way he could have invoked the Insurrection Act. Any other way of invoking, the proper way of invoking the Insurrection Act, the people who he would have invoked the act against were the Oathkeepers and the people who were attacking the Capitol, because they were attacking the government of the United States, and he's the chief of the enforcement branch of the government of the United States. So it doesn't matter that Stewart Rhodes had to go into the Capitol. He didn't have to. He just had to plan it. He had to coordinate between the other groups. He had to get that group there. So the very presence of Stewart Rhodes and the Oathkeepers at that rally and then at the Capitol, whether they went in or not, is more than enough to satisfy the elements of the crime of seditious conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 2384. Now, that's that. So today we're going to hear the oral arguments, the opening arguments in Stewart Rhodes' trial. We will probably hear something to the effect of this Insurrection Act nonsense. I wanted to give y'all an idea that the Insurrection Act defense and the defense that they were waiting for Donald's orders, thereby in many ways blame shifting to Donald, is just not, it's not going to fly in court. It's not going to fly in the factual sense. It's not going to fly in a legal sense. There's no logic to it. But good luck to them.